One of my first pieces of homework when I work with families is, hi, here's your parental rights. Have you read it? And they say, oh, yeah, I skimmed it. I'm like, okay, go back and read it and then come with me with some questions and I can break it down and share other resources. And that's just a great first step so that families feel more prepared and understand the process a little bit better.
That's parent advocate Danielle Ward. Today, we're giving you 5 expert IEP hacks with maybe a bonus or 2 thrown in there so you can feel prepared, confident, and grounded the next time you go in for one. Danielle's advocated for her own kids for over a decade, and her company, Encompass Parent Solutions, provides non-legal parent advocacy, support, and education counsel for families of kids with learning differences. Like me, Danielle has attended many IEP meetings over the years, and by now she's got a lot of insights into what parents and caregivers can do to make those meetings as productive and successful as possible. I'm also super excited because Danielle and I go way back to our time and Understood from the very beginning. And so, everybody, welcome to The Opportunity Gap, a show where we talk about how to navigate the education system. I'm your host, Julian, an assistant principal with over 20 years of experience. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Julian. I'm so honored to be here.
Before we jump into IEP hacks, I definitely want to say a couple of things about what can make IEP meetings really difficult for parents in the first place. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Sure. Well, let's just talk about the biggest elephant in the room. These are parents and they're mama and papa bears, right? And they are emotional about protecting their kids. And so there might be a lot of emotion going into an IEP meeting because they feel that they haven't been heard or they're nervous about what the school has planned for their kids. It's their first time maybe going to an IEP meeting, and that's intimidating. So I want to try and set families in the right positive direction.
Yeah, agreed. My time in IEP meetings, there's a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
Just you can kind of feel the pressure in the room as soon as they walk in.
Right.
And the stakes feel really high. Like we're having this formal meeting where a lot of people are at the table. Sometimes there might be multiple teachers and an administrator and the child, different parents, maybe an advocate.
Right.
There's a lot of things thrown around that parents might not have the knowledge, or at least they don't think they have the knowledge that they should when they're sitting at the table.
I didn't even know what an IEP meeting was when I went to my first IEP meeting. And I didn't understand that it's a legal meeting, right? But
Yes.
It should not feel that way. And families' anxiety, great point, is also very high. It's also intimidating, right? All those people and you don't know who they are. And I have to say, we don't do a very good job of slowing down the introduction portion at IEP meetings so we can really hear what everybody's role is, because they want to get to the next meeting as fast as possible, right? So I wish we could slow those down a little bit.
Agreed. Well, that anxiety and the intimidation and all the things that you mentioned, that's why listeners and viewers, that's why we brought Danielle in, because hopefully some of the hacks that she's going to share with you, it's going to really help you understand how to overcome some of those obstacles. All right. So Danielle, give us our first hack. What can we do?
Right. So the first hack is really something that is in every state. It's understanding your parental rights. There is a handbook in every state sponsored by your Department of Education that each IEP team is required to give to you when you start the process, and nobody reads it. And it's really a disservice, particularly to the family, because it's really important for you to understand your rights to the process and also your rights before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So one of my first pieces of homework when I work with families is, hi, here's your parental rights. Have you read it? And they say, oh, yeah, I skimmed it. I'm like, okay, go back and read it and then come with me with some questions and I can break it down and share other resources. And that's just a great first step so that families feel more prepared and understand the process a little bit better.
And, in addition to that, families, I would put a plug in. Understood.org has a lot of great information about your rights.
They do.
The language varies a little bit,
yes,
depending on the state you're in. but essentially, as you said, there's a lot of legal protection that families should have, and it will help hopefully like ease some of that anxiety because it'll help you go into the meeting prepared, understand like what are you supposed to be getting. Hack number 2, what do you have for us?
Okay, so I really love having my parents prepare their parental concerns before the meeting. So this is, I know you've maybe sent an email or you wrote a letter and share what was going on, but it helps to make sure families are on the same page
Mhm.
because sometimes spouse and partner don't necessarily agree. Let's make sure our information is together. It also helps take the emotion out of your presentation, if you will, when they ask, what's going on with Johnny? Tell us what's going on. You have it all prepared in writing.
Can you give a couple of examples of like what would a typical parent concern sound or look like?
Sure. A lot of times, what schools really need to hear is what's going on at home that the parent is seeing, that the teacher and the speech therapist, if you will, don't necessarily know about. A lot of kids mask all day and they're trying to keep it all together so they can get through the day and they come home and they have a meltdown or they're exhausted, they can't finish homework, they can't focus. So I really like parents to share what they're seeing at home. The other thing is, they might have feedback from other service providers, like a therapist or doctors that are giving new information that they want to share. And they want to make sure the team is aware of that data. Also, parents observing what teachers are saying, and that might not be gelling with what the child is saying. And this gets really complicated when we get to middle school and high school,
Right.
when there's a lot of, shall we say, miscommunication between student and teacher, and
Yes.
then student and parent. So
Yes.
it's really good to make sure you have all your information in front of you. And also so you don't forget. Sometimes your emotions get carried away with you and you get, stuck on point number 1. It
Mhm.
just helps you remember. It's also really good to have parent concerns in writing because I actually like sharing that after the meeting to the team so they can include it in the IEP.
Great point. Yes.
That section of the IEP and there's usually a standard format, but there should always be a section for parent concerns and student strengths. And
Mhm.
that allows the teams to really get the snapshot in what's going on with the family and the child that they need to be aware of. Would you agree that this is the most read section of the IEP by your side of the house, by the teams?
Oh, without a doubt. And again, if you notice your 8-year-old who is normally super excited when they come home from school and they want to tell you everything about their day, and if you're noticing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays they come home and they're
Right,
tired and they're not their normal bubbly self, that's a
right.
warning sign that you want to document. Like something like that, where maybe there's a new curriculum that's been put in place on those specific days and it's wearing the child out.
Right.
Things like that, where only you as the parent might be noticing, are things that the
Right.
team needs to be aware of so that they can start working together to figure out what special instruction do we need to put in place.
It also could be what happens on the bus, right? Like, so sometimes there's issues on the bus, or if a student has an aide, sometimes there's a miscommunication there, or the child is not getting the right support. Everything like that, you're right, has to be put down in writing and observed.
Now, from your end, Danielle, is there a specific like number of concerns that you recommend? Like,
Mm,
are we listing like 15 of them? Or are we listing
no.
two? Like, what would you
I
recommend as a nice like good number that's going to really get things done?
Right. So I like 5
5?
or
Okay.
less. And we don't need to make them up, parents. We need to make sure they're real concerns because the IEP is a living document. We can update it at any time. So what these concerns should be are the concerns right now.
Mm.
Okay. If there's something that's overarching, that is an overarching concern, that should actually go up under the special note section of the IEP. So, for example, if a child has epilepsy and they take medication,
Okay.
please notice the seizure action plan, blah, blah, blah. So that's not a parent concern. That's a special note. So understanding where things go on the IEP is a lot about what my job is. I don't want families to write 5 paragraphs for the parent concern statement. Again, remember, put yourself in the eyes and minds of the teacher and the therapist and the speech therapist and OT, because they're the ones that have to read it.
Right.
We want it to be concise and to the point as much as possible.
How about hack number 3?
Okay, number 3, I would say, you don't have to be alone at this IEP meeting. You are always welcome to bring a guest to the meeting who can support you and know something about your child. You do have to let the teams know that you are bringing a guest, and they have to know their full name. They will be taking attendance. So you're not going to just show up with a guest. That's just bad practice, okay? Because this is a professional setting, let's give the courtesy, okay? But the same goes both ways. So part of my feedback to teams for families is the family's going to request that they're going to bring someone to the meeting. Would you please share who's going to be attending on your end and what their role is at the meeting?
So when you say bringing a guest, can you give us a couple of examples of people that typically might fit that bill?
Yes. So an advocate is always a good idea. I've had family members attend. Maybe it's a sister or an aunt or uncle. I've had grandparents attend. We've also had like a neighbor who has a child who has been through the special ed process. They might be there to take notes and also just to be a support for the family. I want to make a big caveat here, though, that the purpose of bringing this guest to the meeting is a support role, but also to help explain or share more information about the child. They are not the decision maker. The parent is the only one that can share with the team consent on any
acronym alert. Educational
Consent.
decision maker, or EDM. Yes,
that's correct.
And parents,
okay.
I mean, we're joking, but honestly, you'll see EDM, or you might hear that reference. That is educational decision maker, and that's a really important distinction to be made, especially our families where children might be in foster care or wards of the state. Having supports for them as the educational decision maker is really, really important. And families, one thing that I want to point out that Danielle was speaking of in terms of bringing people over and advocates, it's as simple as Googling special education advocates in your town or your city, because there's a wealth of advocates across every district in the country. You can find support wherever you need it, and it should not be a financial burden for you. So you should be able to find support free of charge or at low cost if needed. And there's also language interpretation services. So if you're listening or watching and you might need somebody to be there that speaks your home language, that is also something that the district should provide you with information about.
That's correct.
So that you don't feel alone and you don't feel not supported.
That's another one of my hacks.
Oh, that was your next hack. All right. Well, let's go on.
Next one, but that's...
All right, so let's go hack number 4. What's hack number 4?
Hack number 4 is the IEP is a document that has to be enforceable, right? So that it means it's a plan that allows the students and the teachers and the families to understand the goals and objectives and how the student's going to be supported at school. So the important thing is data. The data that is collected at home, the data that is collected at school, it needs to be referenced in the IEP. So, for example, every 3 years, a child is supposed to have new evaluations done. It's called a triennial evaluation.
Yes.
And that new data needs to be brought into the IEP document, not like the 20 pages of it. There's a synopsis section, but the data needs to be referenced properly in the IEP. So if we're making a decision at the IEP table and we're referencing data, let's make sure it's in the IEP so that everyone's on the same page and we're comparing apples versus apples.
Hey, listeners and viewers, I have another acronym alert that you might hear related to data. And this is really important to know related to this specific hack. When data is collected, there has to be permission given for that evaluation or reevaluation to happen.
Right.
So you might hear or sign something called a PTRE, or a PTE, permission to evaluate, or permission to reevaluate.
Right.
And that's something you should get before the meeting happens, or if at the meeting it's determined that another assessment needs to be done, then the IEP team will ask if you're giving permission to reevaluate the child. And so there has to be your signed permission for you to do so. So if you hear PTE or PTRE, it's related to assessments. All of this has to be related to PWN, which is prior written notice. So again, you're going to hear a lot of these acronyms thrown around.
We're going to need a glossary after the end of this.
Liz, in my next life, I tell my team that I'd like to start making T-shirts and gear that has all the acronyms spelled out for education.
Alphabet soup.
I feel like we would make a killing in doing that. But yes, the PTRE or the PT is something that you're going to hear about. Just make sure that that is referenced if any assessments are being asked to be done, because it's really important that you're allowing permission for that to happen.
It's a really great point, Julian. I also want to put a shout out there to the families who are leery of having schools do evaluations on their children. And I really want to counsel them that you really should allow these free evaluations done by the professionals in our school districts. They're licensed through our state, they're highly qualified, and they're important to understanding the entire picture of what's going on with you. Now, if we need additional assessments after it because you don't think they captured exactly what's going on, that's when you get back to the IEP table and say, I still think we need to do more testing. But if you don't allow the district to test, we don't know. So there's a lot of myths and unnecessary worry by families on this. So more data is better than no data.
Agreed.
So I really think that's really important.
You have one more hack for us?
I do. And it's about recording the meeting. There is a process to be able to do this, and it depends on your state. Every state has different recording protocol, and an IEP is a labeled meeting. And so I always counsel my families, you have to give at least, I prefer 48 hours notice to the district that you plan on who you're bringing to the meeting, what your agenda items are, and that you plan to record the meeting. You don't have to tell them why you're recording it. You're not going to, share it through, social media. Heaven forbid. This is confidential and should be kept. And most of my families love it because I want them to be present at the advocacy table. You have to share your information and not furiously writing notes about what the, OT therapist is saying. The only caveat also is remember that if you tell the district you're going to record, it gives them the courtesy that they are going to record as well.
Mm-hmm.
I love having the meetings notes as well because it helps the families write a note back to the school, to the case manager saying, hi, we appreciate the meeting. This is what we heard. These are the action items on my end. We would love to hear about your action items here. Do you agree or disagree with what we recognize from our notes from the meeting? It allows that continued collaboration to say, Julian might say, oh, no, actually, we did not agree to that. This is actually what we said. And then that's the clarification. And that's all in writing. Because if it's not in writing, it didn't not
exist.
Happen.
It didn't happen. Yeah.
That's correct.
And from the school's end, I would 100% agree on having just a follow-up conversation in writing. I love getting notes after an IP meeting, just kind of summarizing what we talked about, but also any positive things that happened from the meeting.
Yes.
I think that goes a long way with school teams, especially because there's a lot of work that the school puts in to create a high quality IEP. So a recognition of that, it really goes a long way.
100%. And a lot of my coaching with families is to talk about putting yourselves in their shoes, understanding that your teacher has, 25 plus students, and then also has to make sure all the 504s and IEPs have been read. And, there's a lot that goes on for them to get through the day. And compassion and empathy goes a long way.
Agreed. Listeners, after hearing, watching, listening to every hack that Danielle has shared, I'm going to ask you, are there any tips that you would like to share? Any hacks that you think we need to know of, or any hacks that have worked for you while you've been a part of an IEP meeting? If you have one, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear more hacks or more ideas about how we can make IEP meetings successful and a positive experience for everybody involved. So just drop them in the comments. Let us know because we'd love to hear from you. So I have one hack myself. I am not the expert as Danielle is, but I do have one thing that I want to call out for everybody involved. Remember, the purpose of an IEP meeting is to support a child, right? That the student is at the center of all of this. And we would be remiss to not include the student's input in the meeting. A lot of times it's a lot of adults talking, but we forget there's a child at the center of all this. So parents, talk to your child. Have a conversation with the child before the meeting. Include the child in the meeting if you feel that they can advocate for themselves at the meeting, and then follow up with them after the meeting. And it doesn't matter what age the kid is. If you have your 6-year-old that is having a meeting about their ADHD, you can talk to them about, hey, we're having a meeting. I'd like you to tell us how you feel about this class, or I want you to tell us what are some things that are going to help you feel better about school. Be sure to let them feel like they have a voice. I can't stress enough how important it is to include your child in the process. And at the high school level, one of my big jobs in the administrative role is to talk to the kids about their own IEP. Like they should be advocating for themselves. They should
That's
know
correct.
what is in the document. They should know that this is a legal document and it has your name written all over it. And so the protections that are in that legal document should be happening in classrooms. And if they're not, you need to come to acronym alert, your LEA, your local educational administrator or advocate. And that person, usually the administrator, they're the one that makes sure the IEP is being implemented. And so the hack for this is make sure your kids are included. Don't isolate them from this. Don't take them out of this because the IEP is going to be a process for a long time. It's not just going to go away. And so this is a process that your children need to be empowered to be a part of.
Oh, that's excellent advice, Julian, because I can't tell you how many times I have to counsel families who don't want to share the IEP with the students because they're worried about, mental health. And there is parts of it. So for example, the IEP meeting, they don't need to stay for the deep dive in the evaluations that really, nitpick on everything that's wrong with the
Right.
child. However, I think there's a huge disservice by a lot of families because they're helicopter parents and they just don't want to, they want to overprotect and they want to run the show. In New Jersey, by the age of 14, children are supposed to be participating in the IEP process.
Right.
So yeah, I think it needs to be way earlier. I agree with you. Start them conversation as early as 6. A little bit about there's a whole group of people at school that are working to support you.
Right.
Did you know that? Mommy talks to them and dad, that's huge. And that gives them like, oh, I'm not all alone.
Yes.
So it's the student focused IEPs are the best. And also they have to take this advocacy to the workplace or to higher education. The IEP ends when they graduate. So how they advocate moving forward, is got to be built on the inside.
Again, we're on two sides of the aisle with this, but hopefully this shows that we can come together and collaborate on supporting our children. So I really appreciate you coming onto the show today.
So it's my pleasure.
Listeners, I did do a couple of acronym alerts. There's a lot of acronyms out there in education and especially in special education. My path to retirement will be to design a clothing line with all of the acronyms for all of us. But until that time happens, Understood has put together a list of resources to help you figure out and decipher all of the different acronyms that you might encounter during this process. So check in the show notes and check in the resources so you can learn more about the information you might need. And listeners, I really would love for you to subscribe to the Understood YouTube channel. There's so many resources on our channel. There's so many resources on our website. As an administrator, I do this every day. I am in IEPs all day, not all day long, but I'm in IEPs a lot. And I prescribe understood.org as a resource for my own family. So I wouldn't say it if I didn't use it myself. There's great information here. So please share with your friends, your families, your schools. Subscribe, like, listen, comment. Hit us up because we appreciate you. We're going to keep bringing on great people like Danielle who have a wealth of knowledge. And so thank you so much for joining and tuning in. Danielle, I appreciate you, and I really hope you come back and share some more information with us in the future.
Anytime, Julian. It's been my pleasure.
All right. Until next time, family. We'll see y'all out there.